Hey there, y'all. We are going to do another delicious shortcut supper today, and this one will relate to everybody. Nobody around does not occasionally have taco night in their family, and this shortcut supper is a taco night remix. In our house, when I make tacos, I always double the recipe. Never fails. My meat gets doubled, or at least I think it gets doubled, or it closely gets doubled, depending on how hungry the crowd. Usually I do things like sloppy joes with the meat the next day or later that week. I've done taco soup, turned it into chili, different things like that. This one is a remix that you're not even going to really think about as still being leftovers, and you can actually make this out of the gate and it's still going to feel like a shortcut supper even if you start the taco meat from scratch. So first things first, because I normally would start this with taco meat, we're going to make some taco meat real quick. I'm going to turn my heat on to high, and I'm going to make my taco meat basically like I normally would, and then after it's there, I'm going to turn it into the base for this flatbread. So I just have about a pound of meat. My meat is 80-20, and it would normally be what we have left over from taco night a couple nights before. I'm going to get it into my pan that I have on a medium-high heat, and then we're going to season it with taco seasoning. Now, taco seasoning is a shortcut item that you can get, an ingredient that you can find already pre-made for you in the packet. That's a very easy shortcut item. I actually love to make my taco seasoning in bulk. The ratio that I use is 2 tablespoons of chili powder, 2 tablespoons of cumin, 2 tablespoons of salt, 2 tablespoons of garlic, 2 tablespoons of onion powder, and 1 tablespoon of pepper. I do that in bulk. I make it in an amount like a quart-sized jar, and I just keep that in my pantry. So shortcut for me is grabbing that jar and getting a few tablespoons out. I did that today and put it in a little ramekin to bring down to my studio kitchen. Also, the taco meat being made is a shortcut option. Another thing that I do during my prep days, I've talked to you a lot of times about those onions that you can get in the freezer section. But if you have time over the weekend to prep some chopped vegetables, this works just the same. It's already in your bag and ready to go. This will stay good in my fridge for up to a week, 5 to 7 days. If I want to do it in the freezer, I can do it just like this, like I would. I just like to lay them flat to freeze, and once they're frozen, you can stick them into your fridge door. This is 1 whole onion, which is about 2 cups of chopped onion, and that's what you find in the freezer section. So my meat is starting to simmer. I'm going to always, if you notice I broke that up a little bit with my fingers as it was going in, that's going to speed up the process. So I'm going to wash my hands real quick, and then I'm going to get my spatula and start breaking it up. You always want to let meat kind of do its thing to help you out, because the more you mess with it, really at the end of the day, the longer it takes. So I'm going to just move it around a little bit now that it's seasoning, or now that it's sizzling. And once it gets brown and really starts to show a little crisp on the edges, we'll mess with it again. Now, normally into my taco meat, I do put a little bit of extras. If we're doing a simple night, I do just the seasoning, a little bit of water to help the seasoning kind of make a sauciness in my taco meat. But this is going to be a flatbread pizza. So I'm taking my meat and I'm bumping it up in quantity, and I'm amping up the bulk of it. So I'm going to add about 1/2 cup of onions, which really would only be about 1/2 a small onion, or in this case, this is a pretty big one, so maybe even 1/4. Like I said, having this on hand is great. And once I get my meat started, while it's doing its simmer, we're actually going to go to our side dish, because this is not just a main dish, this is a side dish too, all in a quick little time frame. Okay, so that's simmering. I've got my onions in, and the reason I went ahead and did my onions now, I'm going to do my garlic now too, is they can easily be softening at the same time your meat is getting brown. There's no reason to wait on the meat to get brown first in this application. I'm going to go in with a tablespoon of garlic. And then I'm going to use also a good heaping 2 tablespoons of my taco seasoning. Oh, that's the wrong jar. Don't want to put lemon juice in there. That's for something else. And I always say when I'm teaching people how to cook, this is about 2 tablespoons of seasoning per pound of meat. So if you're doing a big batch of tacos and using this, 2 tablespoons of taco seasoning mix per pound of meat. I always tell people this when I'm teaching them the foundations of cooking. If I've only got a few minutes to tell them things that will change their life, season like you mean it. Whenever people taste my food and they ask me, why doesn't my food taste like this? A lot of times it's because they're scared of seasoning. You always need more than what you think. And if you season while you go, then you won't have to be worried about overdoing it. So we season the whole time. And that way, you're not going to end up with something that's inedible because it's too salty or too spicy or whatever. Okay, so that's looking great. It's coming up in no time. Now, if you are somebody that likes to drain the meat off of your beef, I don't get incredibly fatty beef. The most fatty I ever get is 80-20, and that's when I'm doing hamburgers on the grill. I usually do about 85-15 for my taco meat, so I don't really feel the need to drain it. If you do, I would do this. I brown my meat, and before I put anything else in, I would take a paper towel and some tongs and drain out a little bit of that fat. But in this case, it's not a very, very fatty pack of meat, so I'm going to keep the little bit of fat in here. And then I'm going to add a few other things because our taco meat is going to act kind of like our flatbread pizza sauce, if you will. This is a fusion, and I love to do fusion things because, honest to goodness, there are no rules in the kitchen, and some of the best things are when the countries come together and make something new. So, okay, that's my meat. We're going to let that go for just a few minutes. And in the meantime, while it's going, it's going to get a little can of Rotel. Saucy is the name of the game here. So while it simmers for a few minutes, this is where you would actually start. We would have added in our onions and our Rotel with regular taco meat, and now that's getting saucy. So while that's happening, we're going to make our side dish. Typically, if you get a flatbread or a pizza, what do you get with it? You get a salad. So this time we're doing a Tex-Mex salad. So let me start by getting our few things that need to be drained into my colander. We don't want a lot of extra liquid in this salad because we want our liquid to be our dressing. I am going to go ahead and turn this guy down a little bit. There we go. Because we want our dressing to be our liquid, and we want it to get on all over our ingredients so it gets nice and marinated in the time that everything else is coming together. That's why we're going back and doing this part now, because the next 10 to 15 minutes while everything else is cooking, it's going to let the marinade do its thing. So I'm going to drain a can of pinto beans, and this is preference. You could also use black beans. And I'm going to drain a can of whole kernel corn, which also you could use a thawed can or a thawed bag of whole kernel frozen corn here as well. Drain my beans, and because my beans have a little bit of a syrupy liquid in them that keeps them stuck on the bottom, I'm going to always get my can and do this little motion like this. Get a spoon actually, because it probably will still stick. Always watch your fingers on those can lids. There's nothing sharper that's more gnarly in the kitchen. And then I'm going to get that saucy packing liquid off my beans, and because my beans still have a little of that on it, I'm going to give them a good little rinse. You don't have to rinse your beans if you're putting them into a soup or something, but I always like to rinse them if they're going into a salad. Okay, so we're draining. I'm going to grab a little towel so I don't make a mess when I walk. Shake a little bit extra out of there, and we're going to come over here. All right, so this is our corn and our beans. This looks so good. My saucy mixture right here, smelling amazing. Okay, and if you see back here, I've got my flatbreads already ready on this tray, so when it's time to build, those are not in any way being waited on to come out of a package or anything. And then I'm going to get a big bowl for my salad. Now I'm going to make a homemade dressing for this with some lime juice and some avocado oil, or excuse me, lemon juice and avocado oil. But you could easily, if you wanted to shortcut this, you could buy some cilantro lime dressing or something like that, and it would be fantastic. So first things first, I'm going to make my dressing in a jar. I've got the juice of 1 lemon, which is about 1/4 of a cup. I'm going to add some salt and some garlic. Now my salt, I'm going to put in about a good couple of teaspoons. And I'm going to get a teaspoon of garlic. And then I'm gonna I've got some cilantro that I chopped for our taco night. And this is about 2 tablespoons of cilantro. This is just leftover. You could also buy already chopped cilantro as a shortcut item in the produce section, okay? So that's gonna go into my mixture, a couple of tablespoons. Give that a little zhuzh around. Okay, and then after that, I'm gonna stream in some avocado oil. So I've got about 1/4 of a cup of lemon juice here. I'm gonna go with about 1/4 of a cup of avocado oil. So that's easy peasy, 5 ingredients. Salt, lemon juice, avocado oil, garlic, cilantro. And look how delicious that looks, so fresh. It's so easy to make your own salad dressing, even when you're shortcutting things. So easy, and you know exactly what's in it. Always, always, I like to stick a finger in to taste, make sure we're happy, and we are. Very good. Okay, I'm gonna get 1 tomato chopped in this. And my tomato is just a really fresh bite in here because we're using some canned stuff. If you had to, in a pinch, you could use a canned tomato here. I would drain it. Or you could use a can of Rotel. I would also drain that. In this recipe, you want really the most liquid to be the little bit of weeping of vegetables that you may have from your tomatoes and the onions I'm gonna put in, and then your salad dressing. Okay, so now our tomatoes are gonna go in. It's 1 tomato. I'm putting that in my big bowl. I'm gonna bring my bowl over here so you can see what I'm doing. And then I'm gonna put in my beans and my corn and another cup of the onions that we have left from that bag that I got that I was using for my taco meat. My taco meat's looking really good. After this few minutes, my tomatoes are a little bit broken down and kind of making a little saucy situation. Okay, I'm going to put in my corn and my pintos, a cup of my red onion, and it really doesn't have to be red onion. I just love the color. You could even use green onion if that's what you had on hand. I would just maybe use a little bit more because green onion can be a little milder. Okay, cup. That means I have a little bit left for another recipe. And then on top of this, I'm going to stir all of my dressing. But first I want to give another little bit of salt because I want to salt my vegetables themselves. And I'm going to go with about 10 cracks of black pepper. If I was not making this for some people that I know do not do spicy, aka my tiny children, I would add in a jalapeno here, or you could even, I'll show you one of my favorite shortcut ingredients. Get a can of diced green chilies. That would be glorious in here. We may actually end up serving my girls some of this and putting the chilies in later. So my dressing is gonna go all over the top of my salad, and I'm gonna stir it together, and it's gonna just sit and get lovely while we're finishing our flatbread. Now my oven is preheated. It's preheated to about 400 degrees. You can go up to 425 if you want to get in a hurry. That's totally fine. I just would make sure that it's on a high temp because flatbreads you want to get crispy and delicious with melty cheese. And that's exactly how you do it. Okay, side dish done. We're going to put him on the back counter and turn our attention to our taco meat. But first I'm going to clean up just a little. It's important to kind of keep track of your mess in the kitchen so you don't have an overwhelming experience at the end. Okay, so my taco meat looks amazing. I'm going to turn the heat off on it because you don't want it to be burning you while you're trying to work with it. And then while that's cooling for just a second, I'm going to grate some Monterey Jack cheese. Also, pre-grated cheese is a fine shortcut ingredient. I just do this because it is what I prefer to do. I buy my cheese in bulk, and I don't always, there's some brands that don't have great stuff on the outside. They keep their pieces of cheese separated. So just to avoid having to think about it, I buy block and grate it myself. Easy tip too, bring it home from the grocery store, grate it up, put it in your fridge and maybe a couple of different baggies so their freshness stays better. And you'll be surprised how much better that fresh cheese is. But easy peasy solution, grab a bag, 8-ounce bag, maybe 2 of Monterey Jack, depending on how cheesy your people like it. 8 ounces of cheese should do just fine for 2 flatbreads. But I just know some cheese-loving people. Okay, here we go. So, like I said, oven is at 400. My flatbreads are here and they're ready to be built. So let me move this stuff out of the way. Yummy, yummy. Okay. My flatbreads are just, they came in at 2 at a time. You could easily do pizza dough on this. Any shape is fine. That's nothing to be picky about. And then I'm going to start with my taco sauce like it's my pizza sauce. So first things first, I'm going to take my spatula, which is slotted. I actually probably should bring this a lot closer. I'm going to move my cheese in so you can see it a little bit better. Let me get a plate. That is an easy fix. I definitely want you to see all the way what I'm doing. Get my cheese on a plate. Lift up and move. Just don't let it fall out from under that grater before you're ready to move it. That makes it so easy to move cheese. I'm going to move you a little bit lower so you can see exactly what I'm doing. There you go. Okay. Now, I think I'm going to switch for a slotted spoon. Everything in me doesn't want to dirty another spoon, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do for the right tool. So here is the meat, and I'm going to build my flatbreads. This meat mixture is going to act as my sauce and my meat in a flatbread or pizza. So I'm going to get this spread out. And you'll notice that this is a little bit like turned up on the edges of this pan. That's totally fine. We're going to start our cooking for a few minutes on this tray, and then to get them just a little crisp on the bottom, we're going to slide them carefully onto the oven rack so they can crisp on the bottom. My tip for that is, once you have slidden your flatbreads onto the pizza rack, sorry, I was concentrating for a minute. I couldn't talk at the same time. Once you slide these onto the rack, you're going to want to put the tray underneath them while they're cooking. You want to just, in case anything falls out, you don't want it to fall in the bottom of your oven. So there'll just be that'll be there to catch it. And then once you're finished, your little technique for getting them out is going to be getting the tray with a pot holder and putting them out onto the tray with some tongs, and they're going to fall out onto the tray they started on. Sometimes you just need to know the skills. The recipe's not it. I promise you. We need more than recipes. That's why you need a coach. It doesn't help if that pizza lands or that flatbread lands in the bottom of the oven and you don't get to eat it. Okay, here we go. Everybody's on there. Ooh, sizzle, sizzle. Okay, everybody's on there. We're going to get a good coating of cheese. Now that rotel that went into here, that adds a really good juicy tomato layer on our flatbreads. And then Monterey Jack. Let me tell you about Monterey Jack. It is one of the cheeses that our Mexican-American restaurants use all the time. We have actually asked the people that are in our local Mexican restaurants, which means they're Mexican serving what we want in the American style. And the queso dip that they make is Monterey Jack cheese. So Monterey Jack is where it's at if you want to do what they're doing in those yummy restaurants. Okay, so whenever we use cheese as a topping, we always treat the cheese crust like it's garlic bread. So I'm going to top the crust, because I can, with some garlic powder. If I can get it to come on. There we go. We don't want to overdo it, so I was being very ginger and gentle. Okay, and then we're going to go with a little bit of cracked black pepper. A brittle little sprinkling of salt. And because I'm going to leave one section of these for my baby children, but the other one the adults are going to eat, we're going to add some diced green chilies onto one of these. If you have fresh jalapenos out of your garden or pickled jalapenos in your fridge, that would be great here. Or if you're not a spicy person whatsoever, these really aren't that spicy, so I would brave it and try them. They add a really delicious kick of flavor that's a little bit, if you've ever had tomatillo salsa, it's a little bit reminiscent of tomatillo salsa. Totally optional here, but game changer in my opinion. And it's my little bit of green. I like to have a little bit of green on almost everything. So one of these is getting the diced green chilies. And probably half of this one, because this is going to serve 2 adults, me, and 2 baby children. So those baby children will eat half. Okay, there we go. Into the oven for about 5 minutes. This is going to start, and then we're going to do another couple of minutes with the pizza directly on the rack. I'll show you what it looks like when we get back.